नमस्ते बाबू नमस्कार बाबू
Hollywood biopics. They make it so hard to love them. They're long, preachy, and often painfully dull. They feel created just to torture students in history classes and to win awards. On the surface, Oliver Stone's Nixon follows the same template. It's stocked with great actors, it's over 3 hours long, it digs deep into 20th century history, jumping back and forth in time. On paper, it's the kind of thing that will only be tolerable if you're especially interested in Nixon's career. Stone had already mastered the art of the stately, respectable biopic, but in the early 90s, he switched to a more aggressive style, as seen in the films JFK and Natural Born Killers. In both cases, he was accused of valuing style over substance. That's what middlebrow critics always say whenever they can't grasp that oftentimes in art, the style is the substance. There is a theory about how and why Stone transitioned away from the conservative style of his 80s films. He was one of several directors, along with Steven Spielberg and Clint Eastwood, who in the late 80s were shown a work print of Orson Welles' unfinished film, The Other Side of the Wind, in the hopes that one of them would take on the job of completing it. None of them thought it was salvageable, but it's hard not to notice that Stone soon adopted a radical new style in his films that's reminiscent of Welles' kaleidoscopic mix of diverse camera types, film stocks, color and black and white, handheld versus stable shots, and its breakneck editing pace. The application of the style is ham-fisted in Natural Born Killers, which feels like an attempt to tap into the more cutting-edge popularity of David Lynch and Quentin Tarantino. But by the time he made Nixon a year later, it seems that Stone finally settled into a more organic blend of his natural dramatic style and the more experimental elements that likely interested him since his film school days. The result is that Nixon checks all the boxes of a standard biopic, and it's a great one too. But at the same time, it is overlaid with non-stop artistic flourishes using editing and superimposed images.
The great silent majority. And they have become angry, finally. Angry, not with hate, but angry, my friends, because they love America and they don't like what's happened to America these last 4 years. Let us understand, North Vietnam cannot defeat or humiliate the United States. Only Americans can do that.
Sometimes the purpose is to underscore a theme. A few scenes are inexplicably filmed in documentary fashion, even though there is no separate film crew in the context of the story. There are montage sequences that serve as both flashbacks and summaries of relevant events. Nixon's intense rage is conveyed with abrupt and alarming switches to negative imagery.
And the longest war in American history, and they keep harping on this chicken shit.
But overwhelmingly, these scenes are there to cut into the drama with psychological underpinnings, often slowing down reality to interject flashes of memory, foreshadowing, or sometimes just ominous details that don't seem to be especially on the mind of any of the characters.
That was Johnny Roselli you just passed. He's on his way back.
Roselli? Johnny Roselli?
Yes. You know him, Richard? No? From Cuba?
I never met the man.
Well, I know you've been very careful not to. That's why I'm so concerned.
Okay.
The centerpiece of the film is a dramatic confrontation between President Nixon and CIA Director Richard Helms. The scene is fictional. This meeting never took place, and Helms himself threatened to sue, causing Stone to remove the scene from the theatrical version.
To visit us at last? My friends call me Mr. President.
And so shall I.
In real life, it was the CIA's James Angleton who was the horticulturalist, not Helms. Nevertheless, as he often says, Stone is a dramatist, not a history teacher, and he brilliantly gets to the essence of the conflict between these two powerful men.
I'm sure you realize, Mr. President, that this is a very tricky area, given our charter and the Congressional Oversight Committee.
Oh, screw congressional oversight. I know damn well, going back to the 50s, this agency reports what it wants and buries what it doesn't want Congress to know. I'll pay close attention to this.
Is there something else that's bothering you, Mr. President?
Yes. Dick, we've lived with communism in Cuba for 10 years.
But it has never been the policy of this government to accept that. And it is certainly not CIA policy.
CIA policy? The CIA has no policy except what I dictate to you.
As Helms circles Nixon predatorily, his description of counterintelligence programs developing lives of their own is emphasized with time-lapse shots of Helms' flowers unfolding in beautiful but unnatural speed.
And everywhere the ceremony of innocence is lost, the best lack all conviction, and the worst are full of passionate intensity.
In this and in several other scenes, place and time are punctuated by Stone's editing to suggest either that Nixon has an inkling about the true relevance of various unsavory details, or that he fails to grasp such clues, but will still suffer for their implications anyway.
I, for one, saw to it that my name was never connected with any of these operations. Zion. Trujillo. Lumumba. Guatemala. Iran. Cuba. It's a shame you didn't take similar precautions, Dick.
Even after 30 years, reviewers and audiences are mostly only able to process Stone's film based on how they feel about Nixon or the historical context of his career. But the significance of the film is more than that. It's a rare case of a squarely mainstream film and a director deliberately employing techniques that you would normally only see in art films and avant-garde films.
Mrs. Nixon, do you think your son will ever return to politics?
I don't think he has a choice. He has always been a leader.
Do you think he'd make a great president, Mrs. Nixon?
If he's on God's side, yes.
And you must be very proud of your son.
Stone would revisit the same aggressive elliptical editing style in Any Given Sunday, but mostly abandoned it after that for more obvious uses of symbolism. And eventually cutting artistry out of his films so much that it's hard to distinguish them from anyone else's. All of which leaves Nixon as the prime example of Oliver Stone's brief flirtation with the more experimental and assertive stylization in otherwise pretty straightforward narratives. It's not too much or too little, but feels perfectly organic as a fusion of Stone's dual fascinations with American politics and with the art of cinema.
So beautifully ominous. What rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches toward Bethlehem to be born. Yes, this country stands at such a juncture.